Come, walk down the winding path. Don't mind the spooks and monsters. They stay hidden within the trees. There are mysteries in this world that you need to know, and paranormal truths that need to be told. Come, step up into the Caravan, where we share tales of old as well as new accounts about things you thought only existed in your nightmares.
We decided that we were going to talk about cursed and haunted objects tonight because that would be fun. And you said you didn't find any issues in an antique store, but what is your favorite haunted item that isn't yours, I guess, since you don't have one?
That I
What's your
know
favorite
about
story?
within the
Yes.
world.
Yes.
Okay, so anything to do with mirrors, especially, I think there's black scrying mirrors that are haunted as well. That just seems the most scary. I would be more scared of that than a doll.
Really?
Hands down. I don't know why. It's just something that I feel. And I would have to say that for sure that I know is a haunted object and the story would be Robert the Doll, because I had heard about him from listening to Shannon years ago. But I didn't hear the whole story. I just knew that he was a haunted doll that you weren't supposed to take pictures of unless you asked permission. And then people would end up with bad luck. So they would, write apology letters, and there's all these letters all around him in his display case, and then all of a sudden their luck would be better. Well, I had a really interesting, I don't know, reaction or feeling as soon as I heard about him. And it was like this motherly instinct. It was literally like missing your child. That was the intuition that I felt, which I thought was weird. So, of course, I go and I Google it. And the story that I found was that there is a woman who was... Okay. So there was the house owner and his wife, and then they had a slave. The house owner got her pregnant. She and the wife were pregnant at the same time. However, the wife found out, and she kept her locked away in this little out storage house. She gives birth to the baby. Baby only lasts for 2 days because they locked her in there and starved her, and she, of course, couldn't really produce milk or anything like that, so baby dies. And then she has to go and take care of the wife's child. So then they sent her away, and I don't remember why. But she made Robert for Eugene? Was that his name?
The boy's name was Robert as well, because there was Robert the boy. I think it's Robert. It might be Robert Eugene Otto is the last name.
Oh, yeah. Right.
But
okay.
It's Robert the doll to distinguish between Robert the boy.
Okay. And so I feel like she had to have put that doll was a tie between her and the boy. It was a way that she could still stay connected to him, because he, I think, really became her son in her mind and her, because I mean, you're taking care of this baby that's the exact same age as your baby, and you went through this huge loss. Of course you're going to have an attachment, and then having to leave him is going to hurt really bad, and it's going to be hard. And if she practices anything, then yeah, I can see making this doll to where she and the boy can still have that connection somehow. I'm just not sure if how much of her was in the doll or what kind of a spirit was in the doll, but and it was weird because I was reading about it as well, and it was almost like the spirit in the doll was fading away. Like it's
Hmm,
getting weaker or quieter or something. So it just
right.
makes me really I want to go, I have to go see this doll.
Yeah, he's down in
It's
Key West.
fascinating. Yeah.
Um, I feel like I didn't know about that whole backstory before. I knew the boy's name and the doll, and that you have to ask for permission before you take a
Hmm.
picture. Um, but I didn't realize all that other stuff. I knew that a grandparent, I think, had the doll originated in Germany, I believe, and was brought over here. But yeah, that's really interesting. I hadn't,
Really? Because
yeah.
the story that I heard was that she actually made the doll.
But she
Or
made it?
yeah.
What?
I could have
I
read
thought it
wrong
came from
though.
Germany. No, I see the article you're talking about.
Oh, you
Now
do?
that I'm looking, I do. Well, I mean, I see when it says the doll was given to Robert by his nanny shortly after she became the ex-nanny. So that's on a website. All right, hold on. This
Okay.
is really throwing me off because I could have sworn that he came from Germany. So on this other one that's keywest.floridaweekly.com, they said, "Can you give us the brief history of Robert's journey?" And it says Robert was made by the Steiff Company in Germany, the people who
Huh.
invented the teddy bear. I've pinpointed his creation to 1904 in located documents showing Jean Otto's mother. Jean Otto is the boy to whom Robert was given, so Robert Eugene Otto.
Okay.
Uh, his mother traveling to the region in the same year. He was 4 years old when he was given the doll, and the two became inseparable. But I also see the other one too. I mean, there's another article here.
Maybe it's a combination. It's one of those things, or what if he was given the doll and that's all that, but then
Yeah.
she practiced something and put something on her in the doll because she was being sent away. And I thought that she got sent away because they thought she was practicing witchcraft.
Yeah, there's another article here that says the story of Robert the story of Robert begins in the early 1900s when the doll was given as a gift to Robert Eugene Otto by one of the slaves his father had brought from the Bahamas. Some now speculate that the gift was really an act of revenge by the slave, and that perhaps contained a soul stone, which is a typical item of voodoo practitioners. So here's what I say. This is how we figure this out. We
Okay.
travel down to Key West and
Yes.
we go to the museum where Robert is, which also I think Key West is where they have those polydactyl kitties that have the extra toes.
Oh, and
I
there's
think that,
also a coral place that
yeah.
is I forget what that's called, but yeah,
So this is
we'll have
how
to
we
visit
solve
all
that.
three.
We just go down and we check it out for ourselves because that's the only way to find out for sure is to
Yeah, I say
go
let's do
check.
it.
Done. Deal.
I love it.
But yeah, the you mentioned the letters from the people that took his picture, and some of those are scanned and put up online. If you just Google
Oh.
Robert the Doll letters, you can find a
Hmm.
handful of them.
Oh, I didn't
Which,
know that.
yeah, so that brings me to something that I find super interesting is
Hmm.
the Bell Witch Cave, which is down in Adams, Tennessee. If you know the
Hmm.
story of the Bell Witch at all, I would hope people know the story. Anyway, there was this
Hmm.
almost like a poltergeist spirit that attacked the Bell family from 1817 to 1820 down in Adams, Tennessee, a family. And
Hmm.
supposedly is the only spirit that murdered a person. John Bell ends up dead by the time the witch is done with him.
Right.
So there's a cave down there, and the cave is directly under a Native American burial ground.
Oh.
And I believe that they had someone come in and actually check the age based on the bones and the positioning of the bodies because the bodies are all positioned in a
Mm.
really unique manner. They're in like
Wow.
a fetal position, I believe, and all facing toward the rising sun.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so based on all of these little artifacts that they've put together, all these bits and pieces, it's thousands of years old, this mound is. And this
Incredible.
cave is underneath, and it's sort of like a portal. So I would think that if that story of the Bell Witch was real, that it wasn't just one entity, but probably a
Mm.
lot, which actually is reflected in the one story. Um, if you read like the original, I say in air quotes,
Mhm.
original story of the Bell Witch, there's a time where there's actually four separate entities speaking at once.
Oh.
So, yeah, it's my favorite part of the story because it's so creepy that there's these four characters and they start at first it's only these disembodied voices that you can hear where they heard in the Bell home and they would start bickering. And I know the one was called Black Dog and I can't remember all of their names, but Black Dog I do remember was one of them. And there was this um, female voice that was kind of the I don't know, the one that would keep the others in line. But they would get bickering back and forth. And then, so that was spooky enough, I thought. But then there's another story of the one daughter had gone over to a neighbor's house, or she went, she left the Bell home anyway and went down the road, and they saw four people of varying sizes playing out in the orchard in the distance. Because the house
Wow.
that she went to had like an apple orchard, and they were playing on the saplings, like bending the saplings over and jumping on it and stuff. The girls were telling them to get away and they were just kind of looking at them and ignoring them. And the husband came home and the women are like, "Hey, there's people that are messing up our orchard." And he couldn't see anything. Like they were just pointing at nothing. And so
Wow.
they're freaking out. He gets a gun out and they start pointing and telling him to shoot. And so
Whoa.
he starts shooting in that direction. They duck down and then they're not seen. Well, then that night, I believe, they come back and they start laughing when they come back to the Bell
Oh.
house about how they scared the girl and man, he was almost a good shot or whatever. They just really taunt them. But anyway, all
Mm.
this to say, there's a
Mhm.
cave. It's kind of like a portal underneath a Native American burial ground in Adams, and it was on the property of the Bell farm, which has since been
Wow.
split up because when John Bell died, um, they split up the different sections, and I think the section with the cave was given to his daughter Betsy, who didn't want anything to do with it. She moved down to Mississippi, and so her area got sold. Anyway, the point is,
Mm.
if you go to that cave, because they do have it open for tours, not right now because of the virus,
Right.
but they open it in May. So I think it's the first weekend of May. They open on Saturdays and Sundays only. I could be getting this wrong, but you can look it up on Google. And then June,
Mhm.
July, August, maybe September. Anyway, they're open on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then they're open through October on the weekends. And then they have a late night one that they do closer to Halloween. Anyway,
Mm.
you should not take a rock from that cave. And
Oh.
they have letters all in the gift shop because they have a little like it's a gift shop slash waiting area because they only take so many people at a time down into the
Mhm.
cave. And there are letters all over the wall and they go back to like 1990 something before the because I wrote down a lot of them. There's yeah, 1991 was the
Wow.
oldest one they had there, October 1991, which was before the current owners owned it, I believe. So even the people before,
Mm.
there was a letter that they took a rock and all kinds of bad stuff happened. And people will mail them rocks back all year
Wow.
because
Wow.
they took one. I mean, they're forewarned, don't take it, but people get arrogant. Or there's letters there about children take it and they don't tell their parents or grandparents or whatever
Oh,
until later.
no.
But all of this stuff has happened, and so they send it back. There is actually one letter there where someone had mentioned, I think they sent their shoes back too because there was
Whoa.
dirt. There was dirt from the
Oh.
cave and the grounds and stuff on their shoes, and so they just sent it back. Um,
Wow.
but so here's the really cool thing. Well, cool, I guess, for those of us
Right.
who don't have to live it. Um, So a couple years, well, no, not a couple years. Last year, I went to the Archive of the Afterlife down in Moundsville, and
Mm.
there was a doll in the museum from the Bell Witch Cave because the owner of the cave, Chris Kirby, she gets these porcelain dolls and she paints them up to look kind of creepy, like zombies or
Oh.
just ghostly or whatever, and then she sells them in the gift shop. And so anyway, I get in there and I see this doll. And in the Archive of the Afterlife Museum, everything in there has something attached to it, from what I understand, a
Wow.
curse or a spirit or something. And so I
Goodness.
asked the owner, Steve Hummel, who's one of our poets on, or one of the poets on the radio station's website.
Mhm.
I asked him about that, and he said that it had gotten mailed to him about a week before I got there,
Oh, wow.
and he let me see the letter that came with it. And the letter was from someone who was a Bell family descendant
No
who,
way.
yeah, yeah, right. So she had gone to the cave and took rocks and bought the doll. And she sent the doll to the museum. And in the letter, she said something about she was tired of being bitten and scratched.
Wow.
And the doll's name's Blossom, by the way. I definitely remember that.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
right. So I was like, oh my goodness. Found out just the other day, um, when I was looking up more stuff on the Bell Witch, because that's always an interest of mine. There was a show a few months ago that was put out by, I think they're called the Foreman Brothers, a group
Mm.
in, I think they're based out of Ohio. They went and actually, it was that woman that sent the letter. They went to her house because she was having all kinds of demonic like activity.
Oh,
And it
wow.
turns out, so this is how I find out the other end of this story. Apparently, she took, because I always wondered in the letter, she talks about rocks, taking rocks, and the doll. She bought the doll,
Right.
but she only sent the doll to the museum. So I,
Oh.
I was like, well, what'd you do with the rocks? Because there's warnings everywhere not to take the rocks. Well, here's what she
Right.
did with the rocks. According to the story, which you can look this up on YouTube, um, as well, uh, I think she said she had 3 rocks that she took from the cave. One of them didn't even
Mhm.
make it to the car, it just disappeared. The other
Whoa.
one, I don't know if she said it disappeared once she got home or by the time she got home. Anyway, she still had one in her house when the guys showed up from the show to help her. She
Oh
still
my
had the one.
gosh.
But, uh, yeah, so don't take anything. I went to the cave. I wasn't even tempted to take anything, and I take rocks from everywhere I go, but no. I wasn't gonna mess around with this one. There's too
Right.
many letters associated with it, which,
Wow.
um, yeah, there's, so Gettysburg,
Oh, I wanna
the
go there.
yeah, I haven't been there, but when you get on the subject of, like, cursed objects,
Right.
there are letters that have been sent to the National Park Service, letters and stones, sometimes sticks, feathers, what have
Oh,
you,
wow.
sent back that people took from the battlefields or specific areas of Gettysburg, and
Wow.
then their lives fell apart or whatever. And some of these letters are really elaborate. Like the one is a horrible story. Like the guy took something and then his wife left him and his dog
Oof.
died. And I mean, it's like
Oh,
10 horrible things in this letter. Please take this back because my life just fell apart. I've been in the hospital several times and whatever.
wow.
And I don't know if they don't keep the letters, which made me super sad. They only keep them for a certain amount of time and then they
Oh.
destroy them. And
Oh.
that really made me very upset. I'm sure that with when it comes to the Bell Witch Cave, I know they have to have more letters than what they've got on the walls in there. They just have some of like the highlights, I guess. And
Right.
having talked with Chris before, I really honestly don't think she's the type of person that would throw anything away because she's into genealogy and ancestry,
Right.
all those kind of things. I see her as a person who saves that kind of stuff. So I'm sure she has more letters saved, but there's importance to saving those kind of things, even if you think it's rubbish, in my mind.
You know what? imagine if you saved all those letters and you made a book.
Oh,
It would be
that,
volumes. It would be a
okay.
collection.
Hold on. I gotta Google this now. So I have a book upstairs. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't misquote the title. But
Oh,
there's a book
okay.
that I ordered a while ago, and it's called Power Stones. It was
Ooh.
totally made in the 90s, and you can tell that by the by the cover. It's totally 90s font. But two women got together, and I mean they have a history of, I mean, they're well well respected people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just random people who made this. But it's a book about the stones and stuff that you take from some people take from the beaches in Hawaii.
Mm. Oh.
Because if you take some of I think it's like the pumice stones
Uh-huh.
in Hawaii, that's bad
Oh,
because you're
yes.
upsetting the goddess there.
I've heard
And
of that.
yes, Pele, is that
Yeah,
right?
I think
Yeah,
so.
I hope
Maybe.
that's it. So anyway, I don't mean to be disrespectful for not knowing the name, but I'm pretty sure it's Pele.
Right.
And the book is photocopies of the letters. Of course, the people's address and identifying info is erased. It's like whited
Right.
out. But photocopies of those letters. And then the second half of the book are comments from famous people about, I guess, the power of the mind and manifestation and that kind of thing.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah. So, of course, I can't find it on Google now. I type in Power Stones and Magic the Gathering is what's coming up. I need to go to the book section. Power Stones book.
That's awesome.
But I wanted to, because I don't want to run away from the mic. I just wanted to show you the cover, but now I'm not finding it. Uh,
Mm.
you would see what I mean by totally 90s. Power Stones book. So then, though, there was a story on Lore, the podcast Lore,
Mm-hmm.
which I think we all know and love,
Yes.
about a ghost town out west
Ooh.
where they had, and this speaks back to manifestation, I think.
Mm-hmm.
They had such a problem with tourists taking pieces of the town
Yeah.
that the tour guide started saying, if you take something, a ghost will follow you home. And then they
Wow.
started getting stuff sent back. I
Oh,
guess
wow.
I don't know how much it slowed down people from taking stuff out of just, testing it.
Right.
But people started sending stuff back because
It,
they said their lives were falling apart.
it's true, though. I mean, the power of the mind is one of the most powerful things. I mean, you really can create your own reality. And if you think things, and I mean, we're just magnets. And
Hmm.
so if you take something and you sit there and you go, well, we'll see what happens, and you're not 110% confident that you're going to be fine, that little seed in the back of your mind is going to sit there and fester and grow, and a little bit will start. And then
Hmm.
you'll be like, well, I wonder if it's because of this. And then you're going to start getting more scared, and then more bad things are going to happen. And then all of a sudden, you know,
Right.
you've manifested all kinds of negative
That's gonna
things.
show up. It's probably not.
A
Yes,
little
exactly.
bit. Oh, there we go.
You see
Yes.
that?
Yes,
Totally
I
90s.
see that. That's awesome.
So it's called Power Stones Letters to a Goddess is the actual title,
That's cool,
by
though.
Linda Ching and Robin Stevens. So,
That's neat
and
that they did that. Seriously, if anybody else is listening that is at a national park service or the cave or anything, make a book. I'll buy it.
yes. Yes, I think eventually Chris will have to make a book. She's got too many stories not to share with the world. And
Right.
I'm in on that. And I want it autographed. I'll go down
Yes.
and have her autograph it.
Nice.
But
That would be
yes.
epic.
So here's a weird story. We went down to the Bell Witch Cave last year,
Hmm.
and I went in the cave once. My family stayed at a hotel while I went and hung out at the cave all day. And
Mm.
then by the evening, I wanted to bring them back. or bring the kids and my husband back so that they could see the cave. We were originally going to come the next day, but there was a possibility of storming. And if it storms,
Mm.
that cave will flood and they shut down tours. It's the kind of thing where
Wow.
if you're wanting to go to the cave, you need to call and make sure that they're open the day of,
Mhm.
because if it rained, even if it was a heavy rain that week, it could still be flooding.
Right.
So always check. Anyway, so I'd already been in there. I'd been in the gift shop. I was checking out these letters, and I went back and I got everybody, brought them back. We go on a tour of the cave. As we're leaving the cave, my youngest takes off running ahead of us, which not a big deal. It's a farm. She's not near a road, and there were
Right.
only a few of us in the group, so I wasn't overly
Mm.
concerned. She runs ahead of us. She runs right into the gift shop. By the time I get in the gift shop, she is sitting there holding a doll, one of these
Uh-oh.
painted dolls. And the girl behind the register, who was Chris's granddaughter, said, I tried to tell her she didn't want that one.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
lord.
what?
Oh
And she said,
no.
I just want you to know that, and she's actively trying to talk to my youngest. She's pointing to other dolls because there were, I don't know, 2 dozen dolls there, at least 2 or 3 dozen
Yeah.
probably. She's like, if you like the one that's in the Christmas outfit, we have this one in the Christmas outfit. We have this one. If you like the blonde
Oh
hair, we have, and
no.
she's pointing at all these other ones. And my daughter's like, no, it's this one I want. And she's holding it like a baby tight.
Right.
These were, by the way, they're porcelain dolls.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, why are you so worried about this? Like, I told her that she could probably pick anything out. I
Yeah.
and she said, "Well, I just think that you should know that this that last week that doll was on the top shelf. Now the top shelf in that is probably maybe 7 feet off the ground.
Mhm.
She was on the top shelf and she just fell off, like almost like she threw herself to the floor. And
Wow.
there were other people, I guess, in there at the time, other tourists or whatever, and none of the other dolls fell, just that one. Somehow she didn't break, even though she hit the hardwood floor, and she's a porcelain doll.
Oh my goodness.
So, to
Oof.
make sure that she didn't fall again, or if she did, it wouldn't be so bad, they put her down on a lower shelf, which put her directly in eyesight of my small daughter,
Oh.
like eye line.
Yes.
Yeah. So then when we come in a week later, my daughter's like, "Oh, that one." Yeah.
Mm.
So we have her. Her name's Sasha, and
Oh wow.
my daughter named her Sasha. And there's actually an article that I put on the Into the Fray Weird Writer blog months ago now. I think it was last year, about
Mhm.
haunted dolls. And there's a picture of Sasha and Blossom from the Archive Museum.
Wow.
But my daughter, every once in a while, will tell me, like even tonight before we got on here, she said she needed to talk with Sasha and asked me if I could get her down because I have Sasha up on a shelf, kind of
Mhm.
wedged in so she can't fall forward or whatever because I don't want her to break.
Right.
And she'll tell me, Sasha wants to play. I need to have her. And
Oh
I'll
boy.
get her down, and then she'll set her down and put on a show for her or talk to her, ask her questions, whatever. So there's that. But
Wow.
I don't get any bad vibes off of her or anything, so I'm not worried about it.
Mm.
And I also kind of thought at the time that, I don't know, I wanted to think that if she was something that my daughter chose, then that was because she was meant to have her. And I
Right.
just couldn't find a malicious feeling in that, which is
Mhm.
why I wasn't like, no, put the doll back. If I thought it
Right.
was malicious, I wouldn't have let her have it. But anyway, so that's possibly haunted object that we have.
It's interesting. That's it would be hard for me. If I went through that, it would be a little bit difficult. Cuz I am a very fearful person.
Hmm.
But I do trust my intuition as much as I can. And like you said, if
Yeah.
there's no ill feeling, and I mean, goodness, there could have even been a feeling of love towards it or something.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I would have been like, okay, let's bring her home. And
Hmm.
so yeah,
Yeah.
really
Now the
crazy.
the other
It's
two don't like her. The older children don't like her. They say
right.
she's creepy, but whatever.
Yeah. We have some porcelain dolls here. We have We had 4 of them. And one, only one, all 3 kids were like, no, nope, she's got to go.
Oh.
So she left.
uh, there.
She was voted off her island.
I don't know if you ever listened to the podcast Monster Talk, but
No.
so it's Monster Talk, and their tagline is now I'm not going to remember it because I wanted to. The science show about monsters, I think is what it is. The science show about
Hmm.
monsters. And so they kind of take things, for a while they were promoted by Skeptic magazine, but they go through cryptids and scary stories and stuff, and they talk about these things, and then they talk about possible scientific explanations or whatnot. But the one
Mm.
host, Blake Smith, in the one intro, he talks about this doll that ultimately what happened was is his daughter, I think she got old enough where she was wanting to throw it out or something. She didn't want it anymore. And so
Mm-hmm.
to mess with her, he would put it in her, like on the outside of her window at
Oh
night.
no. Oh my
Or
goodness.
I think the one story was even they went on vacation and he left it on the hotel bed or something. Like I
Oh
can't
my
remember
god.
all the details. But the doll kept appearing, and his daughter was freaking out because he was messing with her.
Oh.
But it was hilarious to listen to the story and he set it up, whatever episode that is, he sets it up like a scary story. He says it all
Right.
spooky like about this doll just kept reappearing and reappearing. And then he talks about how it was just him messing with his daughter.
Oh man.
Which that also reminds me, Jamie Snell, who made our logo,
Yes.
sent me a picture the other day that said, instead of elf on the shelf,
Yes.
doll in the hall, right?
Yes.
And I was
I
like,
love it.
yeah, it'd be great. I mean, I would think it'd be funny until, like we had discussed, kids need therapy someday because there was a doll that just kept appearing.
Well, get this. What if it became, would it be called a tulpa? What if
Yeah.
you putting it around brings it to life and it starts doing it on its own?
Oh, so it's a Chucky situation. At that point,
Yes.
it's just active. Although Chucky wasn't quite like, he wasn't a tulpa really, but he was
No,
inhabited by a
he
spirit, like
yeah.
psycho, like serial killer type thing. I've actually
Yes,
never seen any of the
exactly.
Chucky movies, but yeah, yeah. When my kids were super little, there was a thing that I saw in the store called the hide and shriek monster.
Oh my
And it's
gosh.
the same idea as Elf on the Shelf, except it's a fuzzy little pink monster and it came with a book.
Oh,
And so
that's cute.
I tried to keep up with it, but I
Mhm.
can't. This is why we don't have Elf on a Shelf. I always tell the kids
Oh,
Elf on a Shelf is really just a mischievous thing that I don't allow in my home because he causes trouble.
yes.
But
I tried that.
it's because I won't remember to move him.
Right.
So, and they watch, because the same thing happened with the hide and shriek monster. Even when they were little, I
Mhm.
forgot once, and I had to come up with quite a story as to why it hadn't moved overnight.
Mm. See, I ended up getting an elf on the shelf, after years of being like, no, they're too messy. I don't want them in my house. And I really hope that I can remember where I put it. Because they're going to be like, he didn't come back.
You'll have to get another one that looks a little
Right?
different and say like his cousin showed up or something.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I don't know. I've been switching how we do Christmas and stuff,
Hmm.
because so there's the whole Santa thing, but then I've
Yeah.
been teaching them about Odin
Mm.
and Sleipnir, is I
Yep.
think that's how it's, and then
The
just
eight-legged horse.
transitioning. Yes,
Hmm.
transitioning from one celebration to another, because I feel like it's easier to
Switch it up.
do that instead of there's just nothing. It was all a
Yeah.
lie, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I try to bring in different things for the kids
Mm-hmm.
just so they get a sense of what the rest of the world's doing. That's why they know about
Yes.
Krampus. They know about Krampus
Oh
because
man.
it's like Halloween around Christmas. So I find
Mm-hmm.
excitement in it. I also find excitement in it because I didn't grow up with it. I have a friend from Austria who told me once, you only find it amusing because you weren't terrorized by it as a child. You weren't traumatized. Because when she was
See,
young, she had, which she didn't know at the time, but her cousins came to the house dressed in the full outfit,
mm,
busted in the house, and then chased her around the house with a whip and
oof,
chains and all of that until she was in like a fetal position under her kitchen table crying.
right.
So she's like, that's why I don't like it, because I have traumatic childhood memories. But Americans think it's fun because they weren't whipped by Krampus as a child.
Right. See, and I learned about Krampus when I was probably 7 or so. My
Yeah,
family, the paternal side is German, and then going through the postcards, I mean, tons of Krampus cards. We had a Krampus
right.
section. And
Yeah,
so dad would tell me the stories of Krampus and everything, and I was never afraid of Krampus though because I wasn't a bad kid.
right.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, I
there you
was
go.
never on timeout. I was never, yes, I got grounded. But the
Yeah.
primary issue when I was bad, it was because I talked too much. I mean, I'm telling you, I even got sent to the principal's office for it. I got after school, Sunday, whatever is that? What is that? Saturday school or
Saturday school,
something?
yeah.
Weekend? Yep. All because I talked. I even got grounded because I talked too much.
Oh my goodness.
So, yep.
Yeah.
But that
Well,
was it.
my son decided this last year that every time his little sister annoyed him, that he was going to tell her that Krampus was coming for her because she was bad. And so I don't
Oh.
know how many times she would come to me and she's like telling me that her brother had threatened her about
Mhm.
Krampus. And I'd have to assure her that Krampus doesn't actually hurt small children, because we watch the Krampuslaufs, the parades,
Right.
on YouTube. And the guys that are dressed up actually leave the small children alone. They pat them on the head, or, they make it friendly. It's the
Mm.
teenagers
Yes.
that they go after. Um,
Understandably so.
right.
Oh man. I love those different traditions. I've been looking into I like the Mary Lude one where it's the
Oh,
horse on a
the
stick
horse.
and you have to sing back
Yes.
and forth.
That's
I
Welsh.
like that.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's in Wales.
And yeah, I'm excited because and another tradition too that I really want to bring into the caravan is how it was Christmas tradition to tell ghost stories.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
want that. That belongs back in the holiday.
Yeah, I think that we should do that. We could
Mhm.
put out episodes that are just stories, or even if we just put it in the Facebook group or something, just some
Mhm.
narration or something.
We could do some really cool patron episodes as well where you've got
Mhm.
I love to do where we'll read something and then you have all the sound effects. And I found some really
Yeah.
awesome binaural 3D sound effects. So
Mm.
it makes it sound. There was one thing that I did record. I'll have to see if I can find it. But I was trying to make it sound like Krampus. So literally, if you have your headphones
Ooh.
on, you can hear these big footsteps crunching in the snow, coming up like it's coming up behind you. And then I added a chain dragging sound.
Oh,
And
I
then
love
I
it.
also added some haunting jingle bells. It's real slow and it's just kind of, I don't know, like off in the distance jingle bell type of a sound. And it's really I love it. So I think it'd be really cool to create that feeling while you're
Yeah.
listening to the narration and really just get into it. And those you
Yeah.
definitely, like I said, you have to have headphones on so you get the full effect.
Mhm. I love that. I'm excited. We're doing it. It's
Me too.
happening.
Yes, exactly. Super
Oh, man.
excited.
Yeah.
This has
So
been great.
I think the hope here is that we'll have Steve Stockton back on with us at another time to talk about even
Mhm.
more cursed objects, because
Yes.
he has a few to discuss as well. But yeah,
Yes, I
I've
can't
had
wait to
fun.
hear the stories. Yes, me too. I'm so excited. I loved premiering the one that we did first, and I'm really
Yes.
excited for the one that's coming out on Tuesday. And then when this
Mhm.
one comes out, so I am
Yeah.
just we are on a roll, and then
Yes.
we
There will
will,
be one more after
yeah.
this. And then we're going to, because this was kind of a teaser for our
Hmm.
listeners. And then we're coming back the first week of October because Halloween. And the hope is right now we're gonna map it all out and stuff, but the plan is to go from October through the end of the year so that we can cover all the awesome holidays through the end of the year and keep Christmas spooky,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Uh,
Keep
but
that,
also October, we have to be back for October.
oh yeah.
So,
No, there's that feeling on October 1st where you're sitting there going, "Oh my gosh, it's finally October. We finally made it to the holiday season and it's totally spooky and the days are getting darker." And
yeah.
I noticed that a lot of people within the community, they I mean, October is our biggest month, and then all of a sudden
Hmm.
it's November and it's kind of this dead time, and
Yeah.
it's just kind of like, well, what now? And I
Yeah.
want to keep that October 1st feeling all the way until January 1st. And I want
Yes.
to even bring a new spooky haunting feeling when we hit December with those ghost stories and
Perfect.
bringing back that old tradition. So, yeah.
Yes. I'm excited. But yes, we'll have one more episode after this, and then we will see you in October.
Yes, perfect. Yay. Well, I love it. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for doing this. And I'm so excited
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Well, we will see you all later or talk to you all later. And until next time.
Yep. Bye.
Black cock circles round my head. Leaves go up in flames of red, in flames of red. Worry ties me to the ground. Feathers fall without a sound, without a sound. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. There's a light in the fire. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. The black heart calls to your deepest desire. Dead, old, rotten idea. You grow heavy, then you fall, so heavy, then you fall to the ground. I lay in a pile of my broken plans. They turn red and then they fall, so red and then they fall to the ground. I'm making wings black as night. I wait until the time is right. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. There's a light in the fire. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. The black heart calls to your deepest desire. In my dreams, I am flying high, high, high over the hill, and I see down below me the twist of the river, green grass lay still. And from the ground I rise, lift up my arms, spread feet wide. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. There's a light in the fire. Burn on, dear flame, burn on. black heart calls to your deepest desire.